and this is on item 10.1, which is the delivery of Welborne, and we have a deputation from Bruce Slattery. So if you'd like to come forward, please, we have up to 10 minutes.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Bruce Slattery. I'm the Project Director for BST Warehouses for Welborne Project. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of Christopher Smith, Chairman of BST Warehouses, as he's unable to attend. As you will all no doubt be aware, BST have for many years been one of the two main landowner promoters committed to the development of a comprehensive delivery package for the Welborne development area in support of the Welborne Plan. 5 months ago, in February this year, we spoke to the Executive pointing out the lack of need for public intervention in Welborne development. In spite of this, the Executive approved measures to formulate a public sector approach for Welborne based on little need for public funding. We gave evidence to the reasons why the delivery of Welborne is more certain, timely and cost effective in the hands of the current promoters, which we'll seek to further evidence today, particularly given the progress made with planning and the cost increased by the amended proposal that you see before you today. We hope that given these facts and the clear lack of experience of actually delivering major developments in Fareham, that you do not ignore this further representation. In February, the Executive agreed to spend the initial funding of £100,000 and estimated the process could require the expenditure of between £1 and £2 million. Yet tonight, the report from officers seeks approval to spend more than £500,000 this year, and the final costs have risen to more than the £2 million upper limit previously advised. This puts considerable public money in jeopardy. The build-up of these sums seem to be an opaque process. The composition and figures are not transparent, nor are they shared with third parties. However, we know that from our own experience of planning in a number of areas, including examinations in public, that £2 million is nowhere near enough to cover the required statutory processes that are likely to be involved. This ill-thought-through strategy has already cost the public a considerable amount of money and will continue to do so. To little avail, as a more efficient and timely solution is to revert to the current developers delivering the site. I believe the public deserve to know the full facts and have guarantee as to the full funding requirements for the processes, including any public inquiries. The Council suggests that this proposal will also secure significant amounts of public funding. The report does not identify the source of this money, nor when it will be made available. Indeed, the lack of a suitable development partner in the process is a major weakness. In February, it was noted that the Director of Planning and Regulation developed proposals for the future governance arrangements to oversee the progression of the Welborne development strategy and seek approval for this. Where are these proposals? Is it prudent to spend £500,000 worth of public money without this assurance? Instead, from my reading of the matter, you're being asked to remove any form of governance that existed. We were also informed the Welborne Standing Conference, which has been an excellent forum for community, stakeholder and professional team engagement, is being abandoned without the interested parties being given a say in this matter. All of the stakeholders clearly share an interest in the Welborne scheme. We believe that it's entirely unacceptable and without precedent to do this without consultation with its members at a time when developers are actively promoting the site in advance of planning application submissions. It's a further action by the Council that is prejudicial to the progress with the scheme, as officers seek to deny appropriate representation to the public. February's report also promised the Executive be provided with a regular progress report on the progression of the strategy. In the past 5 months, and we've still not seen any published progress report, yet the programme suggests that you will be halfway through M27 Junction 10 design work, have completed soft market testing and be midway through negotiations with landowners. I can confirm that as landowners, we have not been approached since the meeting. We've had no formal or informal offers or discussion, so can only assume the programme can no longer be current, as parts of it have already not been achieved. It also makes it more surprising that the programme put before you today is effectively identical to the one that was presented before, in spite of the 5 months' time passing and the ability to have done considerably more work. Yet this is still not a detailed programme of work, and surely the Executive requires to see such a detailed programme of work before making a decision of this magnitude. The report notes that the Council has a responsibility to meet its obligations in terms of housing provision. However, as we noted before, any compulsory purchase action by Fareham will involve such a prolonged process that will put back housing delivery at Welborne for many years, and thus have exactly the opposite effect to that which Fareham maintain is their primary objective, both for Fareham and neighbouring authorities, because others of them may be affected by the delayed housing on Welborne. As previously stated, both BSD Warehouses and Buckland Development have control of land required for the applications that have been brought forward and continue to spend their own money promoting the site. We're both well advanced with applications with outlining details and have substantially undertaken a large amount of work that's required to meet the requirements of the Welborne Plan. These processes will be concluded in the early autumn, resulting in a policy-compliant applications that can meet the required housing need during 2017 financial year, some 2 years earlier than the timescale proposed by council officers. This is evidenced by the recent public consultation by Buckland with a detailed consultation proposed on our land in the near future. In the face of this, it seems quite strange that the council are determined to spend £2 million worth of taxpayers' money in an attempt to achieve the same aim some 2 years later. To me, this, by every measure of reasonableness, the council's actions are extremely premature. It will certainly fail or leave the council exposed to having spent many millions of public money with little or no gain. Supportive step is clearly not in the public interest, and when there is a clear alternative route which will free the public funding for more worthwhile measures. So I would strongly contend, therefore, that this report is neither required nor reasonable. It poorly reflects the required budget and is misleading regarding the programme of works that can be achieved. In addition, the only viable and realistic option is for the Welborne project to continue to be developed without risking public money by the current promoters. Thank you for your time to make that decision.
I'll just make sure I wrote down correctly a statement you just made. And you said Buckland and BST have control of the land required.
For the applications that are intended to be made.
So you have control of the entirety of the Welborne site?
I can't confirm the entirety of the Welborne site, but we have control for the applications which we believe and are advised by legal advisors that are going to be policy compliant.
It's the same question I asked your boss, for whom you're speaking this evening, 5 months ago. I said, does BST have control of the Bench family land holdings? And he said no. So you're now saying yes. I'm
saying that we have control of the land that we intend to make an application on.
Which is the Bench family land holdings.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Right. Well, just before we proceed then with this item, which I'll ask Councillor Evans to introduce, and we do have two councillors suitably familiar with the last item who want to speak on this one, Councillor Mrs. Trott and Councillor Cunningham, so if you'd like to come forward again. Perhaps I just need a little bit of legal advice before I carry on. We've just been told categorically that BST now has control of the Bench family land holdings. Does that put a different complexion on the need to proceed with the report this evening?
Excuse me. I beg your pardon, what I said is we had control of the land we're intending to make an application of. There's a specific statement.
I think we've been told by Buckland that they're putting an application for the entirety of the site. I just want to make sure we're doing the right thing this evening.
You can only have what we've heard, Peter, can't you? The chap has said that they own the land for which they will be submitting applications. I don't think it changes it too much, but that is what we've heard. That's what you have to take into account. If you think that does change the goalpost significantly, then you may wish to defer and seek clarification, and especially if that differs from what you've been told before. But you know, it's important that the applicants do have control and will have certain notice properly, although they have to submit applications about. They don't have to have control of the land to make an application. They have to control the rules.
Okay, all right, well, thank you very much. It's the opposite of what we were told in February. Right, Councillor Evans, would you like to introduce the item, and then I'll ask Councillor Mrs. Trott and Councillor Cunningham to make their comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members will recall, no doubt, back in February of a special executive meeting and presented proposals around a new development and delivery strategy for the planned Welborne development north of Fareham. you will recall that this was because, first of all, that there had been no definable progress from the majority landowners in being able to submit a planning application. And the council therefore looked at options and decided that appointing a development partner and being minded for the acquisition of land through an FBC-initiated property purchase order would give the best and most timely and assured probability of delivery of the housing that was needed. This approach also had indicated costs of up to £2 million with initial funding of £100,000. It identified the need for a full review of the ongoing governance arrangements. It included an indicative timeline and identified the necessary acquisition of some residential properties within the Welborne site. I also committed at that time to provide the executive with progress reports at the appropriate times of the progress of that strategy. And this report comes at an appropriate time insofar as it can update the executive with a programme of work, with a resourcing plan, and with proposals arising from the review of the governance arrangements. The report that the executive members hopefully has had a good chance to read through thoroughly includes a detailed programme of 2016 and 2017 work, a resourcing plan, a current view on the total overall indicated costs, specific expenditure requirements for the 2016 and 2017 year to tie in with the detailed programme, and consideration of recommendations for future governance arrangements. In summary, Mr. Chairman, the status of these activities is, first of all, that the high-level timeline remains much as that originally indicated, and that's confirmed as per Appendix B, which is much the same as the attachment we had back in February. Securing a delivery partner is progressing, and we anticipate completing any procurement and selection process by spring next year, which may well be 1 or 2 months before we originally indicated in the overall timeline back in February. The CPO process itself involves a large number of specific activities, some of them parallel, some of them contiguous, and these have commenced. And we would expect this action area to really pick up steam and drive ahead with the appointment of a development partner. Until we get to that stage, there's certain actions that we don't know how and what form they would need to be taken. The delivery strategy will be reliant on a mix of internal and external resource, and we now have in place shared service agreements with other local authorities to provide for secondment of experienced staff to help us in these activities. External consultants have also been procured to provide specialist advice. Overall cost estimates remain in line with the original indications. Appendix A shows this at around £2 million, and the original estimate was up to £2 million back in February. And also identifies expenditure for 2016-17, which is one of the items for the executive agreement tonight. It's worthwhile noting that we are in the process of, and we will be submitting grants for government agency funding to help offset some of these costs. Some enabling and support costs grant, for example, is one of those quite specifically to help us with the process of procuring a development partner. And a separate one, which is part of a recent government initiative targeted around garden village initiative funds. I think I'm correct in saying, look at Mr. Jolly here, that's around a £12 million total pot that's available, and which we're looking at 12 applications into a large pot, and we have submitted one of those applications. We would also expect any agreement with a delivery partner to include an appropriate indemnity in order to mitigate the cost of the CPO process. We have acquired all bar one of the Welborne site residential properties, and we will be offering these onto the rental market to help offset those costs in the interim process. We have started the full governance review, but clearly it is premature to put forward formal and comprehensive detailed proposals until we actually have a development partner, so we know how we will be moving forward. But the review has concluded that the role of the Standing Conference has reached a natural end point. It has made very significant contributions to the formulation of the Welborne proposals, but the next stage in the development and delivery process will require a different approach. It will require an approach that First of all, we'll ensure that local community and resident interest groups are kept informed of ongoing actions. And secondly, it's one that will provide opportunities to respond to planning applications, much as we do now with all applications, particularly large applications, trying to take extensive pre-application consultation with the local communities. The Council will almost certainly hold special CAP meetings at appropriate times, and we would expect any applicants to undertake fully with the local resident groups prior to detailed submission of applications. So we are making good progress against that outlined in the February submission. And tonight, the Executive are recommended to first of all note the progress of delivery and the resource requirements. Secondly, to approve the 2016-2017 expenditure of £679,000 and £200. Note the revised community engagement arrangements, and they're outlined in sections 16 to 17 of the report. Recommend to full council to dissolve the Welborne Standing Conference, and recommend to full council that Henry Cleary OBE be thanked, very sincerely thanked, for his work as chairman of the Standing Conference, and for other members' work, to thank them also for their contribution over the past 4 years.